Anya had never considered herself brave. She was 28, slight in build, with narrow shoulders and hands more accustomed to notebooks than survival gear. She worked as a logistics clerk for the Northern Rail Authority, a quiet job that kept her mostly indoors, buried in schedules and freight records. She liked predictability. She liked warmth. She liked knowing that the trains ran on time and that her life followed simple rules. But life, as it often did, had shifted without warning. Her mother's death 6 months earlier had hollowed her out. Her father had vanished years before that, swallowed by alcohol and shame. The small apartment she returned to each night felt colder than the tundra outside, no matter how high she turned the heater. So when the emergency request came, a failed signal relay at a remote track station, she volunteered. Not because she was qualified, not because she was fearless, but because she needed to feel useful again. She had told herself it would be quick. A short ride out, confirm the damage, relay coordinates, and return before dark. She trusted the rail system. She trusted the equipment. She trusted the weather forecasts that said extreme cold, but stable. She trusted too much. The snowmobile sputtered once before dying completely. Anya stared at the dashboard, her breath fogging the inside of her visor. She tried the ignition again, nothing. The silence afterward was terrifying. Not the loud kind of silence, but the kind that pressed inward. The kind that reminded you that no one was coming. She checked her GPS. Signal weak. Radio? Static. Her fingers already felt thick inside her gloves. Clumsy and slow as though they no longer belonged to her. Okay, she whispered to herself. Okay, think. The nearest maintenance hut was less than 1 kilometer away. She could walk that. She had walked farther in better weather. But this wasn't just cold. This was the kind of cold that stole heat instantly, that punished exposed skin in seconds, that drained strength without warning. At 71 tundras, the human body was not designed to function. Blood thickened, muscles stiffened. Breathing itself became labor. She took one step, then another. Each movement felt heavier than the last. The railway tracks appeared through the blowing, snow like dark scars cut into the land. Steel rails contracted under the cold, creaking softly like something alive and angry. Frost clung to them in jagged crystals, sharp enough to cut through fabric. Anya reached the tracks just as a wave of dizziness hit her. Her vision narrowed. Her breath came shallow and fast. She knew the signs. Hypothermia wasn't just shivering and numbness, it was confusion. Weakness, the body quietly surrendering. She tried to keep moving. Her legs disagreed. She stumbled, falling to one knee. Pain flared briefly, then faded, replaced by something worse. Warmth. False warmth. Her training screamed at her that this was bad, that the warmth meant her nerves were failing, that her body was shutting down. She tried to stand. She couldn't. Her legs refused to obey, muscles locked into useless rigidity. The cold had won. Somewhere far down the line, a train horn echoed. Low, distant, but unmistakable. Anya's head snapped up. No, she whispered, panic slicing through the fog in her mind. The freight train was scheduled to pass this section within the hour. Fully loaded, miles long, unable to stop quickly even in perfect conditions. She tried to crawl. Her arms barely moved. The snow beneath her felt soft now, inviting. She had the sudden, overwhelming urge to lie down, to rest, to close her eyes. Her mother's face flickered in her mind. Don't sleep, Anya told herself. Don't you dare sleep. The horn sounded again, closer. Her hands stopped responding entirely. Her jaw trembled uncontrollably, teeth chattering until her muscles gave up even that. Her vision blurred, the world dissolving into light and shadow. At 71 to seed, the body does not fight for long. It prioritizes survival in brutal ways, pulling blood inward, abandoning fingers and toes, sacrificing extremities to protect the core. Pain fades, consciousness dims. Anya collapsed fully onto the snow, her cheek pressed against ice so cold it burned. She could feel the vibration of the rails now. The train was coming. She couldn't move. She couldn't scream. And for the first time since her mother died, she felt truly afraid to die. The shadow passed over her first, large, sudden. Her half-frozen eyes shifted, upward just enough to register. Movement against the white sky. An eagle circled overhead. Massive wings cutting through the freezing air with slow, deliberate power. She thought she was hallucinating. Hypothermia did that. People saw things before the end. The eagle descended. Closer. Closer still. Anya felt something strike her shoulder, not violently, but firmly. A weight, a presence. Talons gripped her coat. Hard. Strong. She felt herself being pulled. Not lifted, dragged. The pain snapped something awake inside her. "No," she croaked weakly. "Stop!" But the eagle did not stop. The golden eagle had hunted these lands for years. It knew cold. It knew death. It knew when something was already lost. But this human was still breathing. Barely, but breathing. The eagle had watched her fall. Watched her stop moving. Watched the vibration of the rails tremble beneath the snow. Instinct guided its actions. Not hunger. Not fear. Something else. It gripped the thick fabric of her coat and dragged her sideways. Off the tracks. Away from the steel path of the oncoming train. The effort was immense. The human was heavy. The cold made movement slow even for the bird. But it dragged, and dragged, and dragged. The train thundered past seconds later, a wall of sound and steel. Wind tore across the snowfield, ripping loose ice into the air, flattening everything in its path. If Anya had been a meter closer, she would have been gone. Reach, her body limp, her breath shallow. The eagle released her coat and leapt back into the air, wings beating against the freezing wind. It circled once, then disappeared into the white sky. Rescue teams arrived nearly 40 minutes later. They followed the stalled signal, then the abandoned snowmobile. They found Anya unconscious, her body temperature dangerously low, her pulse faint but present. "She's alive," one of them whispered, disbelief thick in his voice. They wrapped her in thermal blankets, pumped warm air into her lungs, rushed her back toward heat and light and noise. No one noticed the deep marks in her coat until later. Anya woke in a hospital room filled with quiet beeping machines and soft yellow light. Her body ached in ways she couldn't name. Her fingers were bandaged. Her toes burned with returning sensation. A nurse leaned over her, smiling through tears. "You're very lucky," she said. Anya swallowed, her throat raw. "The train," she whispered. "You were off the tracks." "How?" The nurse hesitated. "They found markings in your coat." Anya's eyes closed. She remembered wings. The report made no sense. There were no footprints around her body, except her own and the marks, where she had been dragged. The drag pattern didn't match human hands. No machinery, no ropes, just deep, wide impressions in the snow. Locals whispered stories about guardians of the tundra, about creatures that watched over lost souls. Scientists offered no answers. Anya didn't need one. Months later, she returned to the tracks, this time with better gear, better planning, and a quiet respect for the land. She stood where she had fallen, where she should have died. She looked up at the sky. An eagle circled far above, a dark shape against the pale blue. Anya pressed a gloved hand to her chest. At 71°C, her body had failed, but something else had not. Something older than logic. Something that chose life, and that choice changed everything.